It is no surprise to viewers when they hear about the drama that occurs both on and off of reality TV shows, and the fictional ones are no stranger to this as well. With the key word right in the title, the total drama series brings some serious, outrageous happenings to the show. However, despite the insanity and severity of the occurrences to the characters, very little do we actually see anyone get reprimanded for these actions. So, which characters in the show are overdue for a trip to the slammer, and which ones are first-time criminals? I'm Caleb with Wicked Binge, and this is Sentencing Total Drama Characters for Their Crimes. Let's start by going over the crimes of the characters from the first generation of the show, from Total Drama Island through Total Drama World Tour. Who better to start this sentencing off than the main host of this series, Chris McLean? Anyone who's watched any amount of Total Drama knows that this host loves to put his contestants in danger, and it only increases with every season. Right from the very first episode, the campers are forced to dive from an extremely high cliff into a small safe zone within shark-infested waters. Over the first 3 seasons of this series, Chris forces the teens to eat all kinds of disgusting foods, fend for themselves in extreme environments, and attack them with various projectiles, all in the name of creating an exciting reality TV show. Throughout this show, Chris is well aware that a lot of his actions are harmful and or endangering to the campers, but shows no concern to address the safety as he enjoys the torture.
Which means this is gonna be awesome!
We even witness him place a bomb on Owen's face in order to dismiss him from the island after the competitor is informed he won't be participating in the 4th season. The host is unfortunately no stranger to being incarcerated, as we see between the final of the 4th season and the first episode of the 5th season that he spent a year in prison for using the island as a dumping site for a hazardous waste company. For his blatant disregard for the environment, as well as any of the campers he comes into contact with, we have to sentence Chris with life in prison with no chance of parole. Following his boss would be the resident cook and drill sergeant, Chef Hatchet. Chef Hatchet, being the right-hand man to Chris, is usually shown alongside the host in torturing the teens throughout the TV series, always the one cooking all the disgusting food that they are forced to eat. Chef is also responsible for being an active threat to the teens in the challenges, whether he acts as an antagonist to slow down or stop the campers, or launching projectiles to prevent them from advancing. Chef oftentimes is the lesser of the 2 evils, as he occasionally tries to call the host out for his endangerment of the kids, as he himself has to substitute in for the interns to test the safety of the challenges. However, Chef also takes pleasure in abusing the teens, occasionally taking over for Chris to inflict the painful challenges himself. We also see twice in the series that Chef joins illegal alliances in order to benefit himself. Once in Total Drama Action, where he toughens DJ up in exchange for half the prize money, and once in World Tour, where he allies with Blaney after she offers him his own show. We see Chef's attempt at murder, where due to his constant frustrations with Chris treating him poorly, the cook takes it upon himself to place a bomb on Chris's boat, blowing him up in the finale of the 4th season. However, as Chef comes to Chris's aid to bail him out of jail, it seems that there's no hard feelings between the two. Chef definitely isn't as malicious as Chris when it comes to his crimes, but he definitely isn't innocent either. For this, it seems fitting that Chef should also serve life in prison, but should be offered the chance for parole. Moving from the crew of the show, we move to the first of our contestants, Duncan. Duncan arrives at Total Drama Island having already accumulated a criminal record, being reminded by Chris that the delinquent can be returned to juvenile detention with just one phone call to his parole officer. We don't exactly know what caused caused Duncan to be sent to juvie, but we know from a video log from his parents and his parole officer that he was already facing a few offenses: public nudity, selling fraudulent products, and disorderly conduct. The young delinquent spends the majority of the series picking on Harold in a number of ways. Primarily in the episode If You Can't Take the Heat, Duncan and the other boys are fed up with Harold leaving his dirty underwear around. So they decide to teach him a lesson by sabotaging all his clean pairs of underwear until he promises to clean up after himself.
So, learned your lesson yet?
After finding out that Harold tampered with the votes in order to get Courtney eliminated, Duncan makes it his personal mission to make Harold's life miserable for the rest of this series. They eventually are able to briefly make up by the end of the second season, but Duncan very quickly returns to his bullying ways by the third season. Duncan is also no stranger to vandalism. He would be seen occasionally spray painting different parts of the island with his skull and crossbones tag. In Revenge of the Island, Duncan is brought back to demonstrate the challenge for the new campers, but ends up running off to destroy Chris's monument to himself. Also, during Total Drama All-Stars, to avoid being perceived that he's getting soft, the delinquent blows up Chris's personal cottage to prove he's still tough. He's excited about the prospect of returning to juvie, but quickly learns that his act will get him landed in prison proper. It's very fitting that Duncan ends up in jail, likely for 10 years and a fine of $250,000. Another contestant who needs reassessment is Ezekiel. Though he doesn't play much of a role as an antagonist in the first season, outside of making some misogynistic comments, this homeschooled teen becomes a minor villain from Total Drama World Tour onwards. After initially being kicked off the show, Chris gives Ezekiel the chance to come back only if he's able to kidnap all the contestants in London before they catch him.
I was gonna let him back in the game if he could avoid getting captured.
Zeke is more than willing to do this at the chance to win the prize money, but unfortunately fails and is booted off once again. In the episode African Lying Safari, Ezekiel has become completely feral and now poses a threat to his fellow teens as he allows his animalistic instincts to take over and attack when necessary. In Revenge of the Island, the feral teen resides in an abandoned mine and attempts to kill the teens when they try to retrieve the treasure he has. He does something similar, but to a more heinous degree in Total Drama All-Stars, kidnapping Chris as revenge for humiliating him throughout the years. The feral teen has the host hung up over a vat of acid while two rats chew on the suspending rope. When the contestants come to rescue Chris, Zeke attacks them with his acid spit. Since all these actions seem to stem from so much emotional and mental trauma, it would probably be best for Ezekiel to remain in a psychiatric hospital until he's no longer deemed a threat. It wouldn't hurt to probably add on a no-contact order for his relationship with Chris as well, regardless of whether the teen turns over a new leaf. Our first female felon of the list, we move on to Sierra. Though she prides herself on being a superfan of Total Drama contestant Cody, the lengths that she has gone in order to prove this in the show are downright disturbing. Sierra divulges a lot of personal info about Cody despite not being directly involved with him in any way.
I also happen to know that your birthday is April 1st.
She reveals that she posed as a telemarketer and got all the information from his aunt. She constantly takes his things for her own pleasure, such as a shoe to sniff on or a toothbrush to use. Ugh. In one episode, Sierra managed to swipe all of Cody's underwear, forcing him to use his swim trunks. This fangirl also has a knack for invading the young boy's space in the hopes of touching him in any way possible, most often when he's unconscious. She's rubbed his feet and made him suck her thumb, causing Cody to create a bell system around his seat in the plane in order to alert him to her invasions. Sierra has also made several inappropriate advances towards Cody throughout this series, but primarily in Total Drama World Tour. In addition to the aforementioned invasions, the fangirl has kissed the young man without consent on multiple occasions, and made several flirty remarks about his physical appearance, much to his discomfort.
Someone they really like.
She even attempts to get him to marry her without his consent and tries to use a Chinese love tea in order to make him be more attracted to her, despite the fact that he turns out to be allergic to it. Because of her obsessive nature endangering Cody's well-being, it would go without saying that she would need to have a hefty no-contact restraining order. Sierra seems crafty enough to potentially work her way around this, so it might be worthwhile for her to spend 2 years in prison as well to drive the point home. On to another TV personality, we have Blaney. Blaney is brought into the Total Drama World Tour by accidentally winning the chance to join into the competition, and immediately tries to flex her role in the TV world. She manages to get Chef Hatchet to join into another illegal alliance by influencing him under the promise of getting him his own show with her connections.
And I've always thought you'd be great on your own show.
He helps her make it into the second round of the challenge in Chinese Fakeout by carrying her via rickshaw, and creates tame and more edible versions of the Chinese dishes they have to eat. However, Heather catches this and the alliance is dissolved with Blaney's elimination. Since this blackmailing was light and had no threats of personal harm, Blaney gets off with a lighter sentence of only a year in prison. Moving on to some smaller crimes within the first generation, our next delinquent is Owen. Despite seemingly getting along with most everyone, Owen is not without his faults. In Total Drama Action, the fan favorite is brought back after his elimination to stir up drama between the contestants in exchange for Chris paying off his mom's $50,000 debt.
Chris offered me 50 big ones to come back.
He feels really bad about being a mole for the producers, but reluctantly follows through with the sabotage until he gets outed by Courtney and is fired by Chris. He never wanted to go through with the plan, but had no choice because of the financial crisis his family was in. On top of this, Owen is unfortunately no stranger to appearing nude in the show, primarily whilst sleepwalking. He has admitted that these episodes happen after he eats baked beans, so that at least can be deterred. But there's no real excuse for the few times he consciously does it. For these two minor instances, it feels best to give Owen community service to do, as he's a well-meaning person and almost never has intent to hurt anyone. The final criminal for sentencing on this list is Eva. Right from her arrival on the island, Eva makes it very clear that she is tough and not someone to be messed with, terrifying her fellow campers. In The Big Sleep, Eva threatens to hurt Chris for making the teens do a run around the lake before they get fed, but is held back by Duncan and Jeff. Courtney supplements this by mentioning how she'd also thrown her suitcase out of the window and broken a lock on one of the bathroom doors. Heather takes advantage of these rage issues by stealing Eva's MP3 player without her knowing, forcing the angry teen to take her aggression out on her teammates until the item is coughed up. Once Heather makes her play, Eva is subsequently voted off by her team. She returns in no pain, no game, and immediately begins to direct all her hatred towards Bridget, the remaining former Killer Bass member. Eva gives the former teammate various death threats and insults, even enraging others who come to Bridget's defense.
Whatever. I'm still gonna win.
When the confessional videos are shown for the elimination ceremony, Eva says in hers that if the teens don't want to end up in body bags, they should refrain from voting for her. Unfortunately, everyone votes against Eva and she's forced off the island in a straitjacket. For her first criminal offense, it seems fair for Eva to be put on probation and continue taking the anger management classes she claimed to be taking in the show. And with those sentences laid out, court is adjourned. Let us know what movie or TV series should be next up on the docket. Hit that notification bell and binge more of our sentencing videos. Thanks for watching.